events. My name is Alicia Estacio Gomez, and I work as a content acquisition editor at F1000, working specifically on Open Research Europe. So today I would like to explain to you what Open Research Europe is, and I will start with a bit of background. So Open Research Europe, or ORE, is the new publishing platform from the European Commission that it came about from a public procurement. They put out a tender that it was won by the publisher F1000, the company I work for, and this consisted on a 4 years contract of 5.8 million euros that started in March 2020. We have several partners as collaborators for communication and sustainability of the platform. These are the Global Young Academy, LIBA, the Association of European Librarians, and Eurodoc. We also partner with OpenAir for communication purposes as well as and also for syndication. And overall, Open Research Europe is the open access publishing venue for Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, and Euratom beneficiaries. And as of October of this year, we have 278 publications, and the platform was officially launched in March 2021. So why a publishing platform? The European Commission were very passionate about creating a high quality, reliable and efficient venue for the beneficiaries of the funding programs. They wanted to set up very high scientific standards and transparent processes. They recruited an expert scientific advisory board, which consists of 24 members who are 50% gender balanced. They covered different career stages and a good representation of all the subject areas that we have on the platform, as well as they are coming from a good representation of all the countries within the European Union. Most importantly, is a platform that follows a diamond model. So the authors do not have to pay APCs, as these are directly met by the European Commission. And also the beneficiaries can publish their research post grant. So even if their specific project has finished, if this grant belonged to Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe or Euratom, they are still eligible to publish on our platform. And when they do so, they will be fully compliant and following the open access and open data obligations that the European Commission set up for them. So the main ambition of the European Commission was to explore different options and give alternative to their beneficiaries with publishing, with scholarly publishing. They wanted them to try other venues that they believe can be a good option for them. So they were very certain that they wanted to have a publishing platform that will follow an open peer review model. And also it was very important for them to have immediate access to the publication and early sharing of research. We also generate new article metrics, and in those lines, we do not have an impact factor. Very much the decision from the European Commission not wanting to put the focus on where something is published, but what it has been published. And they also wanted to be very transparent about all our policies or our strategy and be a very cost-effective business. So each article that we publish, the European Commission pays us 780 euros. And going deeper into the price transparency, we have detailed 8 different steps that are needed to publish an article, and we have described how much of this amount is required for each of these steps. So as you can see here, 28%, almost a third of this APC goes towards pre-publication checks to publications, followed by the peer review management, and then with 14% the development of the platform. So in terms of the platform as a publishing service, we publish original peer review articles stemming from these 3 funding programs: Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, and Euratom. Once the articles are published on the platform, they the community has open immediate access to them, and we also publish them with licenses that allow to reuse, and the copyright is always retained by the author. We, as I was mentioning, we follow an open peer review system by which the names of the peer reviewers, the reviews that they write about it, are published on the platform alongside the article, and we also allow post-publication comments from registered users. Then we follow fair data principles, so in that case, we make our platform and all the elements of it interoperable. So that means that we provide persistent identifiers or DOIs to obviously all the versions of the article, as well as the peer review reports. We ask the authors to use open software, and we link the repository data to the articles. So it's very much super networked and TDM able. As I was mentioning, we don't have an impact factor, so we are developing new metrics, and these metrics, we do it at the article level. So this is a very good representation of how an individual article is performing, and not estimation of how the journal is performing. So in terms of those, we capture things like the downloads, views, and citations of that each article receives. And we also have, as I was mentioning, all our policies and processes are published on our platform for everyone to see. So we want to be very transparent about that. The Open Research Europe is following the example of other funders. In the case of, for example, the UK, where we have the charity Wellcome Trust, they also have set up their own publishing platform, which is called Open Research Europe, and is actually run by the same company, by F1000. So then I would like to explain our publishing model, because this is slightly different from what we can see in the majority of traditional journals. So we follow a post-publication peer review model, by which first the articles are published, and then once they are published on the platform is when the peer review process starts. So the first step of this publishing model process starts with the submission of the article that is received by our editorial team, that they run pre-publication checks on each article. So they are going to check for things like plagiarism. They use a software popularly used within other journals called Authenticate, that they will check if pieces of the test have been used elsewhere, either by the same authors, by someone else, because we only publish original research. Then we also check the language. So our articles are currently published in English, so we make sure that they are understandable, to then later on the peer reviewers can do their work about assessing the quality of the manuscript. We also check all the data underline the research that has been published, as well as the extended data has been deposited in our repository. We have a list of approved repositories, which are basically repositories that will hold the data indefinitely and without the need to pay a fee. So in this case, we can make sure that everyone will have access of the data without having to pay, and without the authors having to actively make sure that the data is still there. We also check the authorship criteria. So we will ask the authors to provide the number for their grant. We check the methods of the article. They need to be reproducible and easy to follow, as well as that the authors have chosen the right article type and they are adhering to the guidelines of that specific article type. And then in some cases, we will have to ask for ethical approval if needed. Okay. Once all the data have been deposited in the repository, is then when the article is published, and is when we ask the authors to suggest 5 names that they would like to act as peer reviewers. So these peer reviewers that the author suggests, we run checks, so make sure there's no conflict of interest between the suggested peer reviewers and the authors. We're going to check for things like they shouldn't have published an article together in the last 3 to 5 years, and they shouldn't work in the same institution, among other things, to make sure that their opinions are going to be impartial. So we ask these peer reviewers to assess the quality of the article, but we tell them not to put too much tension on the perceived impact or novelty, because obviously we don't have an impact factor. We're very much a sound science journal. And we will ask the peer reviewers to give a peer review status. So we have 3 status that are approved if they believe that the paper is scientifically sound in this current form, and maybe they suggest minor corrections, but nothing very serious. Approved with reservations, which is described with a question mark, is when they think that the paper would benefit from a small number of changes. Maybe they can suggest additional experiments, rewording of some sections, or explanation of how they have performed some statistical analysis. And then not approved means that the reviewers think there are fundamental flaws in the article that undermine its scientific merit. But even the not approved should not be taken as a rejected, because the authors have the possibility to submit as many versions of the article as they want. So this is something that we want to make sure that the authors know that they always are in control of their article. So all the versions will appear on the platform as well. For the articles to pass peer review, we have a threshold of peer review that consists of either 2 approved status or 1 approved and 2 approved with reservations. Once this is achieved is when we send the articles to databases and repositories. And yet now I would like to show you how an article looks like on our platform if you haven't had the chance to check it by yourself. So very similarly as another journal, we obviously have the title of the article, and then at the end of the title in square brackets, we put information like which version of the article we are seeing, as well as the peer review status. So in this case, it has received 2 approved status, and we do this to make sure and to distinguish very clearly the articles that have passed peer review and the articles that are not yet peer reviewed. And then on the right-hand side, there is a box that's with all the information about the open peer review. So we can see how many versions of this article there are. So in this case, we see 2 versions, and in the first version, both peer reviewers gave it approved with reservation status. Then the author submitted a second version, and then in this case, both peer reviewers decided that it should be approved. Then at the bottom, you can see the names of the peer reviewers. We also offer the peer reviewers to link their ORCID profile. So it will be good for both the readers to know who this person is, what is the background of the reviewer, and it's also good for the reviewer because they get some kind of recognition that usually if this is done behind closed doors, they're not going to, the community is not going to know that they have peer reviewed this article. And we also offer co-Q reviewing. So it's in these cases that if postdocs or more junior researchers would like to review a paper, they can do so with their senior PI. And then I just want to show example screenshots of the peer review process. So the first one is the report that one of the peer reviewers has written. So very much that the same thing that they will do for another journal. They summarize what are the they summarize the article, some of the highlights, and then they go one by one explaining what are the things that they would like to see differently, or what are the things that they would like to question the authors. This other screenshot is the responses from the from the author. So again, very similarly what they do in another journal, they thank the reviewer and then they go one by one about all the questions from the reviewer trying to answer, or I'm saying, in this case, we have performed the experiments that you told us so, and then you can see these changes in the new version. And then when we have more than one version for an article, we always include a box explaining what are the differences, so it'll be easier for the reader to follow what has been changed, what has been improved for that specific article. And we also link the reports of the peer reviewers. The reports of the peer reviewers, or we also give them a DOI, so they can also be cited as well. And then, as I was mentioning, we want the researchers to deposit all the data underlying the research, the article itself, but also the extended data. So we don't support supplementary material as other journals do, because what happens more often than not is that the supplementary material is converted into a PDF file, which is rendered useless in terms of interoperability, because it cannot be cited. Whereas if they deposit the extended data in a repository, it will get a DOI that it will link it back to the article. The same way happens with the underlying data. So in this case, for the underlying data, they have chosen a type of repository that is more suitable for the type of data that they're depositing, because it's, if I believe, is genomic sequences, whereas for the other type of extended data, they have chosen one fit for all repository, which is called Zenodo. So obviously, depending on the data that the authors would like to submit, we have a list of repositories that they will be more suitable depending on the situation. And sometimes, even if the authors have deposited the data in another repository that is not even on our list, we can check that for them and see if we are happy with that repository, because we don't have all the repositories all that are okay. So we offer the authors to check that with us. So as I was mentioning, that we don't have an impact factor, and our metrics that we use are captured at the article level. So as you can see here, at the top of each article, we can see how many views, downloads, and citations this article has accrued so far. And then it has also a dedicated tabs metric that we click it. We have more or less the same information here at the top. And then we also have a map of the world that will tell us from which countries this article has been viewed more, if the authors are curious about this kind of information. We here we can see we pull the data from the citations from Dimensions and from Crossref and Google Scholar, and we also pull out information from Allmetrics in terms of the social presence of the article. So if it has been tweeted, if a blog has been written about it, and also if it has been saved in bibliographic databases like Mendeley. So we want to, and very much what the European Commission wanted, and following a bit of what they have developed further in the reform of research assessment, we want to capture all different types of research output, not just the final confirmatory results presented in a research article, but we are also happy to publish negative and null results, and we offer a wide selection of article types. So from the beginning, the authors can publish reviews, method, protocols, and brief reports with us. We can also offer them different article types that are not always offered in other journals, like the data notes and software tool articles. And then finally, obviously the research articles as well. These types of article types are tailored for a specific subject area. So for example, in the social sciences and the humanities and the arts, it makes sense to offer them an essay, but it doesn't make so much sense to have this type of article type in natural sciences. So you can see here the distribution of the different article types that we offer for the different subject areas. And then I would like to give you a brief overview of the platform so far. mentioning that, yes, so far we have published 278 articles. Of those, around 77% have completed peer review, and of those, 76 have passed peer review, which is around 168 articles. We have currently indexed in Google Scholar. We also have received the Directory of Open Access Journal Seal award, and we are indexing Inspec, which is database relevant in computing, engineering, and technology, and we have been accepted for indexation in Scopus, which is general content, and ERIH PLUS, which is relevant for social sciences. And we are trying to increase our list of indexers, because this is something that from conversations we have from researchers, this is something that they really want us to be indexed in as many indexers as possible. So basically their research can be quite accessible. In terms of the different article types that the article types that are more popular in the platform, we have the majority, 51% are research articles, followed by method articles. And then we are also happy to see other kinds of article types that the authors are taking advantage of. So we have a good representation of the other ones that we offer. In terms of the subject areas, we are very popular in social sciences, with a third of the content that we currently have on the platform, followed by engineering and technology, and then natural sciences with 22%, which will include areas like biology, chemistry, mathematics, physics, earth and environmental sciences, and computing. Because as you have seen, the platform has content from so many different subject areas. We are creating sections, or we call them community gateways, in order to house all the similar content together and to make it easier for readers to really find the information they are looking for. So in those lines, we have in the big subject areas, we have divided them in this section. So for example, in biology, one of our community gateways is cell, molecular, and structural biology, among others like microbiology, neuroscience, genetics. For chemistry, we have another community gateway, chemical engineering, and I mean, so on and so forth. You can check the rest of our community gateways here in this link. And then similarly, we also have launch collections. The idea is the same, that we want to group together content that is similar between it, but the difference between the collections is that the scope is much smaller. So we are our aim for the collections is around a maximum of 30 articles, where the community gateways is just the whole area. So the collections are created for a specific topic, or it can be bespokely created by a project, or for conferences as well. And they are overseen by guest advisors. In the same way, the community gateways are also overseen by guest advisors, that they help us with refining the scope, the title of the collection, and they also help us with the dissemination of the platform and the making it their members of their network aware of what that specific collection is about, and also the platform, because we are quite a new platform, and sometimes researchers don't know if we are legitimate or not. So that's why we want to partner with experts in the different subject areas, so it will be easier for us to reach out to researchers. And then just to summarize briefly, what are the benefits for researchers to publish with us? We are faster, or at least we try to be faster than publishing with another traditional journal, just because we don't have to wait for the peer review process to finish to have the article published on the platform. We want to be very inclusive with all types of research output. So as I was saying, we're happy to publish negative results and null results, as long as the methodology and the research has been done appropriately. Obviously, when researchers publish with us, they will be following and fully compliant with the open access and open data guidelines that the European Commission has put for them as beneficiaries of European funding. We want to make sure that all the data is deposited in repositories, and this is in a way to make sure that all our articles are reproducible, and they can be replicated, and all the experiments can be replicated by other researchers if they wish to do so, because they have all the data to do so. We are then very transparent, not only with our policies and guidelines, but also obviously we follow an open peer review. And it's quite easy, I will say it's quite easy to publish with us, because the costs are directly met by the European Commission, and then the authors do not have to source for funding to publish the APCs. And then if you want to know more, I've put here this link, which contains a link to our more frequently asked questions, our Twitter account, links to our blogs, as well as short videos that will explain how the publishing with us works. And if you can check that, or you can also contact me or ask me some questions now. So thank you. So yeah, I have here a question by Irene Bueno. So the articles we are not currently, so the question is like, would the articles be picked up by PubMed? So the answer now is no, because we are not indexing PubMed, but this is, it's not the first time I've been asked that, whether we are indexing PubMed or not. And obviously it's quite normal to be asked that, because PubMed is, I would say, the most used database for biology and medical and health sciences. So in terms of PubMed, we are going to, as soon as we can put, we believe we can put a successful and strong application, we will apply to be indexed in PubMed. But yeah, it's definitely in our list of priorities. And once the articles are indexed in PubMed, once we are accepted in PubMed, all the previous articles will be indexed as well. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know if there are more questions or someone would like to ask them live.
I'm not sure if anybody else has questions, but I guess just off the back of the question about PubMed, and apologies if you covered this before, my connection has been a bit spotty. Is Open Research Europe indexed in any of the bigger bibliographic databases, so Scopus, Web of Science, any of those?
Yeah, so in Scopus, we were accepted for indexation last July, which for us felt like a major milestone. And validation of our model. So it's starting to put us as the equivalent level as other journals. And then it's just like different databases or different indexers will have different requirements. So for Scopus and PubMed, what they required for from a publishing platform is different. That's why it doesn't necessarily mean that if Scopus have accepted you for indexation, PubMed will do so. Also because Scopus is for content on all subject areas, whereas for PubMed, we need to have relevant content that has passed peer review in the areas of biology and medical and health. But yes, I was saying, this is something that we are trying to increase the list of indexers that we are included in. With the Web of Science, the problem with Web of Science is that they only include journals or publishing platforms that have an impact factor. So because we don't have an impact factor and we are not going to seek for one, we cannot be included there.
Great, thank you. That's useful to know.
Okay, so I'm not sure if we should stop it here. And if anyone else has any other questions, I will put my email in the slides that I will send to Sosia. And then you can contact me directly if you have any more questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Alicia.
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.